I'm Jess from Jessica's Art Studio, and today I'm going to show you guys a silhouette painting for my painting kit. From your kit today, you guys are going to need a piece of watercolor paper. This is a cold press watercolor paper, so it's nice and thick. It doesn't wrinkle when we add our watercolors to it. Two sides to it. One side is a little bit more rough. The other side is a little more smooth. We're going to be painting on the rougher side today. Also from your kit, you're going to need a pencil. You're going to need your tray of watercolor paints. You're going to want to take out your paint brushes today, and then also your tiny container of black paint. Mine is already gone, so I have my own little container of black paint. A couple other things you're going to need around from your house for this project: paper towels to dry your brushes in between, a water container to rinse your brush off, and tape today, as well as a surface to tape your watercolor paper to. By taping it down onto a hard surface, it keeps our paper nice and flat while we paint on it, but it also will give it a really nice clean white border at the very end when we're all done painting. And then optional, if you want to have a little bit of table salt, a little container of salt to sprinkle on top of your watercolor paints while they're still wet. It does leave a really cool speckling effect. You can kind of see it on my example here. All right, so let's get started. I'm gonna take my roll of tape and tape this down. I just have like a small mini chalkboard here. Pro tip, when you rip your tape off, before you stick it right to your paper, it's not a bad idea to actually stick it to your clothing, because that will pick up little teeny tiny fibers on the adhesive, and then it will eliminate sort of any of your paper potentially ripping up later on when you stick your tape on. So I'm just gonna eyeball it here as best as I can. It's up to you how thick of a border you want. Okay, another piece of tape. Stick it to my clothing. Okay, I'm making sure it's nice and flat, and then I'm giving it a good rub. And now we need two smaller ones for the top and the bottom. Also, I did draw something on this piece of paper beforehand. If you can see any kind of shadows, that's what that's from. And I'm hoping that they won't even appear when I go and paint over them now. Last piece of tape. Now, for this silhouette project, you guys can really do any colors that you want. The original one that I did, I was thinking like African safari, so I had a nice like sunset in the background. And then the silhouette part is just the black acrylic paint that you're going to paint over whatever color is in your background. I did, on this example, end up using a little bit of white and yellow acrylic paint to make more or less a sun on top of my watercolors, so that's an option later too. But for this one, since I did warm colors on my original one, I'm gonna mix it up this time, and I think I'm gonna do some cool colors on this one. So I'm taking a nice, the biggest brush in my set of brushes is the one I'm gonna use today to make my wash, my watercolor wash on the background. It is a nice, thick, flat bristles here that are good for spreading paint over a wide surface, okay? So I have opened up my watercolor paints here. I have my paper towel underneath. Whatever color you start with, we almost want like a little puddle in each color, right? Watercolors work the best with water. So adding a little bit of water and giving it a stir here. And then I paint it on. Okay, if I want to use a new color, I'm going to go ahead and rinse it. Pick out another color. I'm going to do some blue, not blue, green. Ooh, this is a very, it's a very light green color. I don't mind it. Might even mix a little bit of yellow into that green. Yes. Bring some of my blue back into it. So I'm just going back and forth. I'm working my way from the top all the way down to the bottom. I'm working rather quickly, right? With watercolors, if you want them to blend together, you sort of work with a sleight of hand a little bit quickly so that the last layer doesn't dry before you go and apply your next layer to it. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up with some purple blue at the bottom here. Definitely love that color. Okay, one thing that I didn't add on this was any of my table salt. I think I'm gonna do just ever so slightly, the littlest bit here at the very top. I don't want to get too crazy. I kind of want most of my background to dry relatively flat without a lot of texture, since I'm going to be painting a silhouette on top, but I cannot deny the effect of a little bit of table salt. It just looks so cool. Okay guys, so before I do this next layer, I'm gonna have to let my background dry. And actually, if you're impatient like me, you can take a hair dryer, blow dryer, and actually blow dry this, and it'll be done in about like 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go do that real quick, and then I'll be back and I'll show you guys the second part of this painting. All right, you guys, so my layer of watercolor paint is totally dry, and I actually went ahead, I'm deciding to do a desert scene for this one. So I just sketched out a little tiny desert scene. We've got some mountains over here, a big cactus, little plants, and then I'm gonna do a little crescent moon up at the very top. So not only do I have my black acrylic paint, I do also have my white acrylic paint. So I'm actually gonna start with my white acrylic paint, and I'm gonna use my teeny tiny brush here. I'm just gonna fill in my moon first. Let this start drying while I work on the rest. Okay, give my brush a rinse. Now it's time for the silhouette. So this is going to be all black. So I'm starting with a paintbrush here. I'm choosing to use about a medium-sized flat brush for this. Flat brushes are just kind of my favorite. They're just nice for getting your corners and your edges. So that's what I'm gonna use. I have my black paint here as well, and I'm just gonna dive right in. Go nice and slow. Take your time with this step. So the thing about silhouettes is that they're basically a shadow or an outline of something. So I'm really not going to see any details in this, right? Keeps it a fairly simple project for us. All we have to do is paint it black. For example, if there was a snake that was laying on the ground right here, I wouldn't see it. Because the moon is so bright that it's casting a silhouette against everything in our image. Okay, I'm gonna add maybe just a couple more like planty shape lines here. Maybe some little ones. Okay, and then I actually want to go back in with my teeny tiny brush here and add just like some spikes to the outside of my cactus, because even though I can't see the details of the spikes, maybe I can see the little tiny shadows of them. So I'm gonna go back over to this little guy. Little spikes. Okay, maybe there's even like flowers up here. Awesome. Okay, so this is gonna need some time to dry. I do have my first layers on here. Depending how this looks once it's dry, I could do a second layer if I wanted to, just to make sure it's all super smooth, super even. Spread your paint out nice and thin for this project, right? You can always do more than one layer. But now I'm gonna go ahead and peel my tape off here and see how my border looks and see how my final painting turned out. Mine is still a little bit wet, so I'm just gonna be super careful. Ooh, but so far so good. As you can see, it did pay off to get a little bit of t-shirt lint on the back of my tape here because it's hardly peeling off any paper, which is great. And one last one. Let's see. Awesome. All right, you guys. The finished part of any painting is a little artist signature. So down in that little empty space, you can put your little initials. Okay, well, this turned out really good. I'll hold it up so the camera can see. All right, I hope you guys have fun with this project. Get creative with different kinds of silhouettes, okay? If you cut this paper in half, you could even do 2 teeny tiny little mini ones like this. Anyways, I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Feel free to look around at other videos too while you're here, or order an art kit. Have fun.